And now for the one you've all been waiting for, and no one's been waiting longer for this than me. The Steele Jones Cazador 35, the Temple of Doom Village End Scene leather jacket. Well, my fellow Doomers, I finally got it. After almost a full year, I have finally gotten my Steele Jones Temple of Doom jacket, and it is just amazing. I love it. I've run out of superlatives to describe this jacket. It's everything I've ever wanted from a Temple of Doom jacket. As you all know, Steele Jones is a giant in the Indy community. They specialize in making fedoras and leather jackets that look like they've been ripped right out of the screen. They really get those granular details down, and with their leather jackets especially, the weathering they do on them is absolutely amazing. Now, I've got a lot to say about this jacket and Temple of Doom jackets in general, but I know some of y'all will swipe away if I start doing an intro first, so we'll just get right into the Cazador 35 itself. The jacket is amazing. Looking at it in a room doesn't really do it justice. To see the amount of detail that was put into the weathering, you really have to see it in the sunlight, and you can see the amount of distressing that went into this thing to make it look like it's from that final scene in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The sleeve wrinkles are just amazing. I love all this stuff. The jacket is so broken down that, I mean, it almost feels like suede. It's very soft. There's nothing smooth or glossy about this at all. It's as if it's been through some pretty intense adventures. But Steele Jones don't want to actually damage the jacket, so what they do is they apply a lot of the weathering before they've even stitched it together. That way the distressing doesn't take apart any of the seams, which is a danger when you're distressing a jacket that is already assembled. But let's just take a look at this thing. The Steele Jones Cazador 35 carries all the hallmarks of the Temple of Doom jackets as we see on screen. We got the big nickel zip on the left-hand side. We got the small pockets. We got this, pretty small storm flap here. It has the side clips with the black solide style buckles with the two prongs to hold the leather in place. There's not actually a hole for the leather. The prong just kind of stabs into the leather and keeps it from slipping out, which is an issue that you have with the D-rings sometimes, and is what they ended up doing in the film. Do I recommend the Steele Jones jacket to a Temple of Doom cosplayer? Yes, emphatically yes. I can't think of another jacket that would stand above this if you want something that looks like it was taken directly from the prop department of Temple of Doom. They really broke this thing down to make it look like it came right off the screen. And it is now the new pride of my Indy collection. Plus, it is leathery. It smells like a baseball glove. I've had this thing for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and the leather smell is still pretty strong. I got to debut my jacket at my very first San Diego Comic-Con. I'd always wanted to go, but I was never able to get a ticket. Fortunately, a friend of mine who works as a photographer for the event was able to get me a code that I could use to buy a ticket. So, thank you so much. And the reason why I've always wanted to go is to go to the great Indy meetups they have every year on Thursday and Saturday, hosted by the one and only Kalmanos Kalmanitas. I have seen these meetups every year online with a lot of FOMO, and I was glad to finally be able to participate in one and meet the man himself. I've been friends with him on Facebook for years. Dude, it was a pleasure to meet you and Belle. And I was really glad to have this lambskin jacket because it was very hot that day, and it was hot inside because there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people there. And even with the air conditioner cranked up, it was mighty warm in there. Lamb is definitely the leather you want in a situation like that. Now, up to this point, I've only owned Wested jackets. I've had the standard Wested Temple of Doom jacket, which is the one I wear the most, and then a few years ago, I picked up the Legacy when they introduced that line, and the Legacy line is known for being even more screen accurate than the standard. However, Wested is in a different business than a prop maker like Steele Jones. Wested is selling jackets for a general audience. They're not prop makers. They're not trying to break a jacket down and give you the exact scene you want. What they're doing is selling a general jacket based on the patterns that they use to make the jackets for the films, and then slightly altering them to fit the wearer. So when you order a jacket from Wested, you're basically giving them your chest size, your sleeve length, and your back length, and they will modify the pattern for that. Steele Jones has a different approach. Essentially what they're doing is they're making a new pattern based on you that gives you a jacket that fits the way it fits on Harrison Ford in the films. So it's a much more rigorous process. They ask for a lot more measurements, but what you end up with is something that is extremely tailored. This jacket fits me like a glove. It's almost as if I was the star of the movie and the costume department took all my measurements and made that style of jacket just for me. Steele Jones offers two skins to choose from. They have lambskin, which is what was used in the film, and it's light and it's a bit easier to tolerate when you're wearing your jacket in a hotter climate like, say, Southern California. And they also have a cowhide version, which is cheaper. Cowhide is a little thicker than lamb and can be a bit warmer, but from what I understand, the cowhide that they use is pretty thin and is not typical of your average cowhide jacket you might get in a regular store. I bought this for myself as a 50th birthday present, so I wanted the best one. I went with the lambskin, and I'm really glad I did. Now, I ordered this jacket in July of 2024, about 1 month before my birthday. I wasn't under any illusion that I would get the jacket for my birthday, but it did take a little bit longer than Diego initially said in his email to me. I think he quoted me about 9 months. I finally received the jacket after 51 weeks, so just 1 week shy of a full year. The demand for these jackets is very high, and it's only getting higher as more and more people are catching on to the fact that these are some of the best Indiana Jones jackets around. The ordering process was very involved. Diego sent me an email with several measurements on it. He asked me to take a jacket that fits me well and take measurements off of the jacket, take measurements off of myself, take pictures with me wearing the jacket. Obviously, since I was going with Temple of Doom, I based it off of my Legacy from Wested because I feel like that jacket fits me very well. Now, mind you, I didn't send Diego my measurements until several months into the process. I want to say it was earlier this year, so maybe 9 months after my initial order. And that's when he finally got in touch with me and said, okay, I'm coming up in the queue. Let me get your measurements now. So after sending him my measurements, there was a little bit of back and forth, and he said, you know, everything looked pretty great. He sent me a proposal of the jacket that he was going to cut for me by the measurements, and then Steele Jones offers to make you a mock-up jacket and send it to you so that you can try that out first, make sure that it fits the way you want it to, and then go from there. I did not do that. I looked at the measurements that Diego was proposing and compared them to my Legacy jacket, and honestly, there wasn't much difference. I think he moved the shoulder seam up a little bit, but then he extended the length of the sleeve, so it was kind of a wash. There really wasn't too much of a difference, and I felt pretty confident that those measurements would work for me, so I said just go ahead and make the jacket. Roll the dice, but in this instance, it did work out. If you're not feeling that confident about it, the mock-up jacket I think is like $60 or $70. They ship it to you and you can try it on and then work out whatever needs to be worked out with Diego before he actually goes and makes the actual jacket. So about the sleeves, Diego asked if I wanted 100% dark brown polyester or if I wanted to go with cotton. They said that 100% polyester was the screen accurate choice. I thought the sleeves were nylon and then replaced with cotton, but I'm not 100% sure there. He said 100% polyester, so I'm guessing that's what they were originally. But he suggested doing cotton because the polyester will wear out pretty quick. So I took his advice and I went with the cotton interior, and the thing slides on and off very well. It feels very comfortable to wear. And the fit is amazing. It is so tailored. It is made for me. Somebody asked me what size I got, and I said, I got my size, because that's literally what this is. I'm not sure if anybody else could wear this jacket as comfortably as I do. I also asked to have the sleeves wrinkled because I really like that look in the film, and it's something I did with my own Temple of Doom jacket when I weathered it. I took it into the shower and got it damp and then slid the sleeves up and did all that fun stuff. I was happy to let Diego do all that for me. I also asked for the screen accurate solide buckles, and those were put on. My original Temple of Doom jacket from Wested had the D-rings. The Legacy does have the buckles. And when he asked if I had any concerns about my current Temple of Doom jacket, I just said that it fits nice in the chest, but it was a little wide in the waist, and I wanted it to be a little more tapered like it looks in the movie. But Wested makes jackets for a general buying public, so it's understandable that, you know, they have to account for all body types. With this jacket, it's really just accounting for one body type, and that's mine. So the process was very easy. Payment was also great because they allowed for deposits, so you didn't have to come up with the entire amount of the jacket at once, which was good because the lambskin jacket was a little pricey, just being north of $600. Being able to break that up over a year's time made getting the jacket a lot easier. Also, if you're buying something and it's taking, you know, 6-7 months, a year, I don't think it's always right to have to pay the full price up front. Not really a big fan of that business model. I see a lot in the Star Wars community too, and I just kind of feel like if the prop maker doesn't have things on hand or ready to ship within a month, then they really should just take a deposit. That business model doesn't always have a happy end from what I've seen, and I'm glad that Steele Jones recognized that. And they shipped the jacket to me via DHL, and from the time they shipped it until the time I received it here in Los Angeles, I got it within a week. It was a lot faster than the hat I had gotten from them in 2016, which seemed to take months to get here after shipping it. So really happy to see they've gone with DHL for their international shipping. Now let's talk about the Temple of Doom jackets a little bit. They have an interesting history in the Indy filmography because there doesn't seem to be as much known about these jackets as there are with the jackets from the other films. Now, to kind of do like a background of the Temple of Doom jacket, I did some research on Indy gear, and I went all the way back to the beginning of their form. So I'm looking at threads that are like 20 years old. Luckily, Peter Bothright participated in some of the early discussions about the jacket, so it was good to get his input. I'll try to be as general about this as I can since some of the specifics aren't really known, but from what I understand, leather concessionaires, which is what Wested was called back then, they were approached to make the Temple of Doom jackets, and Mr. Bothright has stated that they made jackets for Temple of Doom. They were shipped to Lucasfilm, but something happened to them, they got lost, and when more jackets were needed, Leather Concessionaires was no longer able to supply the jackets to Lucasfilm because they got into hot water with Berman and Nathan's, which was like the overall costume supplier. Apparently Leather Concessionaires broke some sort of agreement by deciding to work on a James Bond film in the interim, so they were on the naughty list with Berman, and Berman went with another leather jacket supplier. Who that other leather jacket supplier seems to be somewhat up in the air. Noel Howard from NBA, who ended up with a screen-used Temple of Doom outfit, including the jacket, which is the same one that Wested used to make their current Temple of Doom pattern from. He always stated that it was like a French company or a French firm, I believe, that made the jackets. However, more investigation by a lot of the folks over at Indy Gear and asking a lot more questions, it seems more likely than not that the Temple of Doom jackets were actually supplied by a US-based company called Cooper's, which is now US Wings. They supplied the jackets for Temple of Doom. The French firm that we've heard about actually seems to have been a law firm that was on set in the early days of the Sri Lanka shoot to make sure that Harrison Ford fulfilled the contract by actually wearing the jacket on screen, because there was some sort of merchandising issue at stake, and I guess Cooper's wanted to be sure that Harrison Ford was seen wearing the jackets that they made for the film. During the shoot, there seemed to be an issue with the jackets due to Harrison Ford's bulking regimen to get in his best shape ever for Temple of Doom, and a lot of the initial jackets didn't fit very well. The lining was nylon, which was also very hot, so I think he wore the initial jacket he was given just to fulfill the contract, and then the costume department had to make some alterations on set to the jackets in order for them to fit him better throughout the rest of the shoot, like replacing the liner with cotton instead of nylon and moving the zipper onto the right side. I believe Cooper's had the jacket set up in the American fashion with the zip on the right and not the British fashion with the zip on the left. Again, this is me reading through like 20 years of Indy Gear posts, so I can't like confirm any of this stuff, but from what everybody has said, it seems to make a lot of sense. If there is some mysterious French leather jacket company, they have never been identified. Whereas Cooper's and US Wings, we actually know is a real company, and it makes sense. But hey, if anybody can come forward with this information, I'm sure the Indy Gear community would love to hear anything you have to say about the origin of these jackets. Now today, you can get yourself a accurate Temple of Doom jacket based off the original pattern from Wested, because they acquired it from Noel Howard, and that's where they derived their Legacy line from, which makes the Wested Legacy one of the most accurate Temple of Doom jackets out there. Now there are rumors that there were Raiders jackets in Temple of Doom. If there is one in the movie, I haven't seen it. There was one possibility noted where it was the Return to the Village, the back shot, which was actually filmed in California with 3 stunt performers. I believe it was the same stunt crew that did the whitewater rafting scene. It's possible that that guy might be wearing a Raiders jacket. He's so far from the camera, it's hard to tell. That's really the only place where it could possibly have been a Raiders jacket. Everywhere else, it's pretty clear that it is the Temple of Doom style jacket. We've also gotten great pictures of a Temple of Doom jacket from the one that Vic Armstrong had. He wore it in Temple of Doom, and he also wore it in Last Crusade, and it went on auction on the prop store last year. Just looking at these photos, you can see how heavily weathered this thing is and how much punishment it took, both between Temple of Doom and the stunts from Last Crusade. This thing is really held together with grit and steel determination. The thing I like about the Temple of Doom jacket the most is just how tailored it is. It fits you almost more like a suit than a jacket. The sleeves are fairly tight, and the jacket is tapered, distinctly from shoulder to waist, so it really does accentuate that fine male form, that V that we're all going for, guys. It was also the mid to early 80s when the movie was made, and the 80s styles at the beginning of the decade were very tight and tailored. Take Last Crusade coming out towards the end of the 80s, getting into the 90s, where clothing started getting a little baggier, a little looser. People preferred a looser fit. One of the things I dislike about the Last Crusade jacket is just how boxy and kind of shapeless it is. And I know also Harrison Ford was not nearly as trim in that movie as he was in Temple of Doom, and the jacket, kind of reflects that. The Last Crusade jacket also needed to be bigger down here because it had much bigger pockets in order to fit the Grail Diary inside of them. Temple of Doom jacket's famous for its tiny pockets. Some people dislike the fact that the pockets are tiny. I don't really keep anything in them except for like gum and business cards, so for that size they're fine. If I have anything big I need to store, I put it in this thing or the interior pocket. Having the smaller pockets is fine because it helps bring in the waist of the jacket and make it more tapered and give it a finer, more tailored look. But in summary, Indy Gear, Michelson, all them fellows over there, they seem convinced that the jackets came from Cooper's. I'm inclined to agree with them. Now that doesn't mean that the US Wings jackets that they make today are Temple of Doom accurate. They're not. The patterns have been changed, and I think they've taken on more Last Crusade characteristics, being a little boxier, and I think they have the snap on the storm flap. So if you're looking for a Temple of Doom jacket, I wouldn't necessarily go that route. I would stick with either Wested or Steele Jones. So now it's time for the big showdown you've all been waiting for. Steele Jones versus Wested Leather. I'm just kidding, it's not a contest. They're both great jackets. Everybody wins here. But they are different in some ways. So let's take a look at some of the ways in which the two jackets differ. Now obviously with Steele Jones, if you're going for a cosplay jacket that looks exactly like it does in the film, they obviously win. I mean, the weathering, the details, everything is perfect. And it's tailored to fit you perfectly, so you look great in it. There's no like awkward fit here. With Wested Leather, they're working from a screen accurate jacket. So the Legacy jacket is also very accurate, and it has like the proper buckles in the back. And where Wested Leather really comes out on top is in the good, fast, cheap wheel. Like I've said before, when it comes to a great quality, fast, you usually get it within a month, and cheap for the price. Compared to other jackets, Wested is one of the better priced jackets. You cannot beat them. My Legacy jacket was like $318 a couple years ago. The Steele Jones jacket is twice that. So that's something else you may want to consider. But with the Wested jacket, you'll have to do the weathering yourself, which can be fun, and it's a good way to kind of customize your jacket and make it your own. I did do that with my original jacket that I bought from them in 2016, and it was a fun process. Tailoring wise, the Wested Leather jacket, of course, they work from Harrison Ford's pattern. They make certain adjustments to it for you, as in, chest size, sleeve length, back length, but they don't go any further than that. They are making like a general product for general audience. They have to take into account different body types, so they're not making a specific pattern just for you. They're just adapting the pattern that they have. Whereas with Steele Jones, it is a custom make from floor to ceiling. The Wested Leather jackets have some quality of life things that I really like. One thing they have that the Steele Jones jacket didn't have is a little place for you to hang your jacket up by, a little tag in the back, something like that. You don't really think about it much until it's not there. And I'm sure that Steele Jones is just going for screen accuracy. Those little loops don't seem to be there in the screen jackets, and that's probably why it left it off. Another thing that Wested offers, and I always take up on them, is another interior pocket. This Steele Jones jacket just has the pocket here. There's no pocket on this side. On my Wested jackets, I've always got another pocket because, hey, you can never have enough pockets, especially when you're at a con. And I was at San Diego Comic-Con with this jacket on for the first time, and every time I reached in here to pop in my phone or my wallet, I realized, oh, there's not another pocket there. I don't know if Steele Jones will offer you another pocket if you want one. It wasn't on the list of customizations to ask for. It's not a big deal. I'm sure they would do it, but it just wasn't something that was offered up front like it was with the Wested jacket. And it's just very simple to say, check, yep, give me an extra pocket. The Wested Legacy line, the leather on the Temple of Doom jacket, I don't know about the others, but the Temple of Doom jacket, it is very dark. It is like a shade or two up from black. It is darker than the Steele Jones jacket, even if you look at the spots on the Steele Jones that haven't quite gotten the distressing treatment. You can see it still starts out with a lighter shade of brown. I don't know exactly which one is more accurate or why Wested went with such a dark leather, but it is a darker jacket overall. It also is a finished jacket. It has a sheen on it, like a glaze, like a top coat. It feels very sturdy. The Steele Jones jacket feels a little more broken in, more loose. When you go like this, it's soft and gives, whereas the Wested leather jacket is a lot more firm. It hasn't been broken down yet. It has that shine of a new leather jacket on it, something you can remove with rubbing alcohol and other sorts of distressing techniques, but out of the box, it is a fresh, brand new, shiny leather jacket. The panels in the back on the Steele Jones jacket, the seam is a little bit wider. The Wested one seems to be stitched in a little further out, so this gap right here is not as deep. Another difference I noticed is that this little storm flap here covering the zipper is a little bit wider on the Steele Jones jacket than it is on the Wested Legacy jacket. The zipper handle itself on the Steele Jones jacket is a little bit smaller than the one used on the Wested Legacy jacket, if that matters to you. The Wested Legacy one is noticeably bigger. Both zipped up easily though, so no issues there. With the Wested leather jacket, the Berman and Nathan's tag is stitched. It's very nice and fine. The Steele Jones one, it looks like this was printed. It was maybe scanned and then printed onto this tag. It's not nearly as sharp and doesn't have the fine qualities that the Wested leather tag has. But looking at them side by side, and this could just be my measurements and just the way the jackets happen to fit me, they are very close. I'm not seeing too many drastic differences in the way things line up measurement wise on the jacket. Everything seems to be hitting in just about the same spots. And hey, maybe that means that my measurements are close to Harrison Ford's. I don't know. So, which one do I recommend? Well, I own both of them, so that should tell you. Get both of them. So you have one for the streets and one for the sheets. So that's my review of the Cazador 35 from Steele Jones. I absolutely love it. I am so happy to have this in my collection. This is the jacket that I wanted when I was a kid back in the 80s. I loved those scenes in Sri Lanka where Indy was walking around the jungle, and I was like, that's the jacket that I wanted. Unfortunately, it was the 80s and I had to settle for one of those bomber jackets with the elastic wrist cuffs, but you know. What Indy jackets do you have hanging in your Indy closet? Do you have a Steele Jones? What has been your experience with it? I'd love to hear in the comments. Let me know which Cazador you got. Is it 35, 36, 38? One of those other ones. What kind of customization did you get done? Or do you have a Wested Legacy? Let me know in the comments. And that's all for now. I wish you all much fortune and glory. I'd like to add that right now I am wearing my new Temple of Doom fedora from Claudio Pellerito. Claudio Pellerito. Hold on, Claudio Pellerito. Love it, it's great.